can be therapeutic for you and me, and perhaps even more so in the early days of the pandemic when we were all stuck at home. We may even have read until it got dark and didn't realize the time, to the point where it may have got us all thinking, all that reading in the dark has made our myopia worse. But did it really? Singapore has the dubious distinction of being the myopia capital of the world. The prevalence of myopia here is among the highest in the world, with up to 80% of our population suffering from short-sightedness. But has reading in the dark contributed to all that blurred vision? To get the answer, I'll be asking an eye expert, Dr. Philemon Huang. Now, most people have been told that reading in the dark causes myopia. But first, how exactly do the eyes work?
Now, I have here an eye model, and our eye works really very differently in the light and in the dark. You can see here, the light comes in, passes through the cornea, through the lens in our eye, and then passes through this glue-like substance called the vitreous, where it finally then lands on the retina. And these light signals then get transmitted via electrical signals to the nerve and to our brain before it is perceived as an image. In the light, the pupil becomes smaller, so making focusing easier. But in the dark, the reverse happens. The pupil becomes larger, and this makes focusing more difficult, decreasing the focusing power. And when we're looking at near things, there's quite a lot of changes going on in the eyes as well. Firstly, the pupil becomes smaller, and secondly, the internal eye muscles will then pull and change the structure, the shape and position of the lens so as to work together and bring the image clearly onto the retina for us to see near things. Now, when we're reading in the dark, the muscles in and around our eyes have to work doubly hard. In the dark, the pupils are bigger, so that it decreases the focusing ability already. And on top of that, there's decreased contrast. So what this means is that it leads to more eye strain.
And with myopia, what happens to the eye?
So in the case of myopia, the eyeball is longer than normal. When the light comes in, it falls in front of the retina, which is why the image is blurred, and therefore it's called short-sighted.
Does reading in the dark cause myopia?
There is a difference between reading in the dark when it comes to myopia development in adults and children. In adults, our eye walls tissue have already matured. So it's kind of like this, you know? It's hard, it's rigid, it's firm. The focusing mechanism, the muscles pulling and its stimulation does not cause significant lengthening of the eyeball, and therefore it does not cause a myopia progression. However, it can cause eye discomfort and eye strain and tiredness. But for children below the puberty age, their eye wall tissues are softer, they're stretchable, you know? It's a bit like this plasticine here. So the focusing mechanism, the pulling forces, the blur vision and its stimulation can kind of lead to lengthening of the eyeball.
Now, I'm curious about this. Most of us turn to technology these days, using your tablet to read a book or to catch up on an article. Any difference when it comes to using that in the dark as opposed to reading a book physically?
There's really not much difference between using digital devices and reading in the dark. The only difference is when we're using the digital devices, it gives us more light, helping us to see a bit clearer. However, the excessive use of digital devices or reading in the dark, what it does is that it causes eye strain, eye fatigue, dry eyes.
I see. So when that happens, do you have any advice or tips on how to reduce eye strain?
You can practice these 3 good tips for good eye care health. Tip number 1 is to take eye breaks often. There is this 20-20-20 rule, where for every 20 minutes of work, you can take a 20-second break and look at something 20 feet away, far away. This helps to relax the eye muscles, give us time to blink our eyes, and this helps to reduce eye strain and dry eyes. But you know, in Singapore, we're always very glued to the screen. So, I have a modification. We can do a 1-1 rule. For every 1 hour, take a 1-minute eye break. Tip number 2. When you're holding your reading material, hold it at a further distance away, ideally more than 40 centimeters, because this helps to decrease accommodative eye strain, which is really the strain to the focusing muscles of our eyes. And tip number 3, work in good lighting areas, because good lighting gives us optimal pupil size, which helps with our focusing mechanism. So practice these 3 eye care tips for good eye health.
There you have it. Reading in the dark will not cause myopia, especially in adults. However, it will cause eye strain and eye fatigue, so it pays to read under adequate lighting. And also, remember to practice those eye care tips that Dr. Huang mentioned. It's time to get my eyes checked now.